Good morning and good evening to those in India. I'm Lata Pada, Artistic Director of Sampradaya Dance Creations, and today is the day for a conversation with Aditi Mangaldas of the Drishtikon Foundation. Aditi's work, Lost in the Forest, you've just seen a very exciting glimpse of this new work that was commissioned by Sampradaya Dance Creations for its digital festival, Anvesana, Reflections in Solitude. And so let me welcome Aditi to talk about these exciting works that she's created for our festival. Welcome, Aditi.
Thank you so much. Good morning to everybody in Canada and good evening to all of us on this side of the world. Before I begin, I'd like to thank you, Lata. Thank you so much for commissioning this work, for giving us a ray of sunshine and hope when you did write to us. And also thank you, Sampradaya Dance Creations, for including me and this work as part of the Anvesana Festival with some amazing and fantastic artists who I'm a big fan of. Well, what you saw right now was the first part of Lost in the Forest. It's in two parts. Nav mein nadi, or river in the boat. Nav mein nadiya, and the second one is Chan Chan Chip Chip. Now seen, now not. For me, you may ask me why Lost in the Forest. Because honestly, like the most of humanity, I'm lost. When the pandemic was suddenly, the river of our lives was dammed last year. There was a sense of disbelief. There was a sense of moments tumbling into each other, emotions on a roller coaster. And in fact, I had been preparing to go to the US and to Canada to perform a work called Immersed. My musicians and me were in full rehearsal with that. But within very few days that the pandemic had started and we were realizing the seriousness of this entire devastation, it was impossible for me to dance it. I don't mean impossible to rehearse it in my room, but to share didn't seem right. Because for me, it's very important to dance or share something that is informed by the air. I always say that, by the air I breathe today. It cannot be divorced from reality. So to pick up something that was danced before just seemed, in the sense, just didn't seem right. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to dance that ever, or how it's going to transform. But Lost in the Forest came about because of this sense of being lost, actually. And for me, the river had changed its course. Changed course meaning not in the usual way that we are used to, but that it had started flowing from the ocean to the source, from the right bank to the left, from the top to the bottom. It was surreal. It was an amalgam of moments, emotions, anxiety, love, passion, fear, all kinds of opposing emotions that were embroiled in this viscous soup. And that needed to inform my work. So when you wrote to us, I started thinking about it. And called Shubha Mudgal, who has been a collaborator with me for many years on many of my productions. And I said, Shubha, could we think of something uh, to work on this project that we have, that Lata has commissioned? Now, one poem kept on, it's a ghazal actually, kept on repeating in my head. It's it's about asking yourself that what has changed? What is it, that has changed in me? Because even the mirror, when it sees me, doesn't recognize me. It is upset, right? And I said, Shubha's sister had proposed this poem to me many years ago for another production. And Shubha said, wait, Aditi, I'm going to send you some incredible other poetry. And there arrived the poems of Lal Ded and Kunwar Narayanji. And one such poem really struck, it was instant. I said, yes, this is it. And I like to quote from it in, of course, translation. Don't know if there is dawn on dark's other side, or another darkness, another shore on the other side of the river, or only water far and wide. It's a beautiful, very, very desolate, isolated poem. And as I was holding it in myself, I was wondering, because it's very abstract, how do you dance such an abstract poem? You know, where it talks about a river in the boat. It's so surreal, right? How do you dance it? And then I remembered that when I was in the lockdown, staying in Bombay with my son, there was a storeroom full of empty frames. Empty frames because my partner, who's German and who runs a art gallery in Germany, had an exhibition of his father's work, who was a renowned German artist in Bombay. And so every frame had a painting in it which had been taken back to Germany, as if narratives had been taken away. And when you look at an empty frame, the thought that comes to you is narratives that have been stolen or taken or lost. And I'm a Kathakar, I mean, I'm a storyteller. But my narratives have been pulled away from my mind, from my heart, from my body. So I wanted to show these empty frames. And that's how the transformation of this poetry started happening. Now, when you see a painting on the wall, it connects to a history and a geography of the place where you are in, of the wall, of your home, of your living room, or wherever, a painting of a time. But when you have nothing, it's not on any wall, it's suspended, and in fact it's in motion. And therefore it gives you this sense of a surreal sense of time and space. So that's how the first piece, which is quite desolate, quite dark, and very, very abstract. So while this was happening, there was this devastating flood in one of the states in India. And so, where the river again causes havoc, right? And because I had been using the metaphor of the river, I thought it would be nice to come in with this storm, as you see in this first piece, where you don't know what is top, above, left, right. Even the camera is moving around with me, and it gives you this sense of tumbling, of where are we? Now, as a person, I'm a positive person. And I I didn't I needed to find something that evoked hope, because that is what we are all. Hope keeps us alive, you know. Um, I will come to it later, but every day we were meeting in Drishtikon with my dance company, with my larger Drishtikon family, which was all over the world. And though I was not sharing my previous work, we were rehearsing it every single day, 5 times a week for 2 to 3 hours. And while doing that, my student and a fabulous dancer, Gauri Divakar, brought a poem of Bhartendu Harishchandraji to me. And when I saw it, there was something about it which was surreal and yet beautiful. Dekh sakhi chanda udaya bhayo, kabahu prakat lakhat kabahu badari ki ot bhayo. Oh, look, this moon is rising, shining, and bringing joy to my heart. And how strange, because at times it's there and at times hidden behind the clouds. And what I did was that I made the deer the protagonist. And on one day when I was going out, I suddenly saw this moon reflected in the water. It was magical, So you saw two moons, and I said, yes, that is where the piece will anchor itself. About the deer startled at the sight of the two moons, the real and the reflected, which was an illusion. And so this piece works with reflected but distorted reflections. Again, bringing you in a way to this double image of this alternate reality we are living in. You look out of the window, there's a beautiful tree, flowers blooming, we talking on the net over the net, and yet devastation is happening. So that's where the second piece happened. Now, I would like to mention here that I was very, very particular in making this film, not to give the audience an experience of how it would be if they were watching it live. You cannot recreate that experience. When you watch something live, your eyes roam from the dancer to the hand, to the eyes of the dancer, to the feet. Maybe we block out the dancer and only listen to the music. Maybe we only look at the musicians playing, or the ambience, or the person next to you, the breath of that person. There are multiple layers of input that our five senses are experiences. Also, the connection of the dancer, the live connection. You can't do that on film. So what we wanted to do is to bring in a connection, a film, a visual experience that you would not get were you watching it live. And therefore, it was wonderful to collaborate with the really amazing photographer and filmmaker, Nirvair Singh, because he dances with me when he's filming it. When the river, he was actually coming and ebbing and going and moving, and there were waves in the way he was shooting it. So it's different experience. The lights are by Govind Singh Yadav. I'm really most honored that Shubha Mudgal made music for this. In the first piece, Nav Mein Nadia, she has actually sung it. The second piece, she composed the work, and it was sung by my three musicians, Faraz Ahmed on vocals and Ashish Gangani on pakhavaj and Mohit Gangani on the tabla and Kamal ji on the sarangi. You know, we never, Shubha and I, have not met. Everything, really, everything has happened online. It's incredible. I haven't met my musicians except once when I got a little nervous and I said, come, and we were at least 4 or 5 meters apart, just talking and doing a little bit before they went in to record. So the entire work has been conceptualized, um, in terms the collaboration meetings were all online, and Nirvayar and myself and Govind met for those few days that we filmed. And you know, Lata, right now India is in a heartbreaking and devastating place. When we went into the film studio to record it, I preponed the recording, seeing what was happening. And the whole experience was quite very traumatic in many different ways, because dance somehow seemed, is it important, I asked myself, is is there reason, does it have any need right now to and the filmmaker and the editor and all the people around in the studio with a sense of anxiety, which was constantly lurking. So I would I would urge the audience to view it in the sense, the way, you know, our work, when we premiere it, is our first dress rehearsal. It's when you perform it and share it, when it starts living on its own. But here we had to perform it right there and then and film it. And I would like to read out the synopsis, if I may. But before that, I request Aishwarya, if you could show the little extract from Chan Chan Chip Chip, which is from Bhartendu Harishchandraji's, based on Bhartendu Harishchandraji's poem, which is, yeah, thank you. Yeah. So I read from the synopsis of the piece. Lost in the forest. The deer startled. 2 moons? Which is what? What is real and what is an illusion? Is the illusion real? A real illusion? Ah, says the deer, I am lost. Lost in the forest. And the pilgrim on the boat? Lost? Am I lost? The wanderer asks. Lost in time or time lost in me? Lost in space or space lost in me? River still? A still river? A turbulent boat hurtling down. But to where? On what? Where is the water? Where is the river? In the boat. The river is in the boat. Lost river, lost boat. Time, space, narratives, framed, unframed, life. Ah, lost narratives. Lost river, boat, dear, space, time, narratives. Lost me, lost in the forest. And the deer leaps across free. Yeah, so thank you.
So, Aditi, well, you leave no questions for me now. you have described a canvas of emotions, of you've painted such a wonderful and emotional and creative and artistic picture of what it has been for you, experiencing the darkness and the hopelessness of the pandemic, and yet how you found it in yourself to create these works. Tell us, and the viewers, what makes you come through such moments of inertia when you feel for yourself and your fellow artists. How do you find the impetus to motivate yourself, to motivate your artists? I cannot believe that you worked digitally, online, and working at distancing, and yet you created this work. That in itself is showing us how technology now is enabling creative work. And I'll ask this question for you, which you might answer after I ask you the first question, is do you see that as a way of the future? And how I think it's been happening for quite a while, where global artists are reaching across and collaborating, where soundtracks are laid by different musicians, composers,
Yes,
and come together. But I want to know how you're finding the resources of resilience within you, as something that you can share, so that all the younger artists who are listening to this might be inspired by your words to take their art forward and not be consumed by inertia and the hopelessness of where they can go next.
To be very honest, as I mentioned earlier, in the current situation, the heartbreaking news, the heartbreaking devastation that is currently here in India, it's a challenge for every artist to find that spark, that energy. But we do so, I think, because you have to, with humility and kneeling down to life, with a sense of extreme gratefulness, and counting one's blessings. And I feel that if it is possible to elevate one person's sense of desolation, sense of isolation, sense of worry, then I need to do that. And I want to do that. And that is what, from within me, I'm urged to do that. Even though every single day you wake up, and at times when I'm talking to my artists, it's a very, very sad and heartbreaking situation. But I remember that when last year, and that was nothing compared to what we are seeing right now, when we were plunged into the lockdown, my first response was to reach out digitally. And and what I did, Lata, was I just put the camera, and whatever I was in, uh, I just started filming something that I myself was not sure of, in the sense that I may have made just that morning, a new structure for a dance tukda or a toda or a tiai or any or a day before, because I wanted to reach out and show, and with my vulnerability, because I knew that what was happening was crazy. I mean, artists were suddenly wondering what's happened, what's going on, where are we going. So it was called From My Home to Yours. And the response I got were these very completely not rehearsed. I used to make mistakes. I used to say, I'm sorry, I'm making mistakes. I used to do something wrong and say, oh, forget it. Okay, let's try it this way. Maybe tomorrow I come back. And, it laid my heart bare to the anxiety and the vulnerability I was facing. And the response was really, uh, really emotional and immediate, from people. It's from a dancer in Chile, from a dancer in the midst of the pandemic in Italy and Spain. That, oh, it was wonderful. And it really touched me. And I said, no, we must find expansion within constriction. And so the first thing I did is structured my dance company onto Zoom without any question. It was totally strict routine and tight schedule. 10 means 10. 5 minutes late, we are counted late, you know. And to see these young dancers, my Drishtikon family, which was across the world, some of them had already left Drishtikon, but from Singapore and Canada and different parts of India, some of my students, we would just come, and it was a huge healing experience for me. And I was hoping that it was a healing experience for them. This routine, we still do it, even though right now, Monday, I'm going to be on Zoom at the appointed hour. And we started collaborating. So our director, Sangeeta Rana, suggested that we reach out to the Rietberg Museum, and we asked them to send us some of their collection, photographs of their collection, India collection. And I chose one work from that. And from my older works, connected that and how I was dancing it within the four walls of my bedroom. And we made a film, and it was presented. Then another film that we made was called Amorphous, because for me, time had become amorphous. And so I took an extract from a piece where the past, present, and future were all entangled in one, And so again, from a work that I had danced on stage, extracts, combining it with what I was dancing in my constrict in the lockdown, my bedroom or living room, but with my back to the audience. So that again flipped across the sense of space and time. But I would like to point out here that we are privileged, Lata, even to be able to talk about dance. But there are thousands of artists in India who have struggled the last 1 year. And where struggling to survive, forget art is, to eat, to feed their families. So as a dance company, we took this decision, and with the with the collaboration of the design house Raw Mango and Sanjoy Roy and Teamwork Films. We made 6 films called Within from Within. Now, Within is an old work of mine, which is classical and contemporary dance based on Kathak, which is about looking at brutality and humanity within each of us. But here it became looking at these very opposing emotions that are constantly within us. And it was incredible because my dancers, all enclosed in their little rooms from across the world, some could go to the chat or the terrace, some could go out to the forest, but most of them in their rooms, never used a camera before. How do we use the camera? How do we all learnt that and made these 6 set of films, again using our internal current situation and from within. We offered these to the public and told them, open your hearts and donate, so that we started a fundraiser. And we have 3 films of those here. And it would be nice if, Aishwarya, you could share those films, because they are part of our learning process of how to use the camera, how to use the phone, how to find angles and light and shot, and find dance within each of us and inspire each of us. These are from the homes, this is from the performance.
Wrapped up in yourself, you hid from me. All day I looked for you. All day I looked for you. And when I found you, hiding inside me, I ran wild, playing now me, now you, now me, now you, now me, now you.
So this this was called Wrapped. So as you see, some pieces are filmed at inside currently, and some were from the work within itself. Subsequently, we made a whole lot of other films, encouraged the dancers to make films called One by One, because they were, most of them are from different parts of India, but were in Delhi. And so they were alone in their little rooms. And what it feels like to find that creativity within yourself, that spark within yourself. We had many workshops. We did interesting chat session called Imperfect Circle, inviting world-renowned collaborators with 27 Indian classical dancers to discuss light design and stage design and dramaturgy and some such all the collaborative arts that are connected with dance. So it's been, I think, one just keeps going, Lata, and you keep one foot in front of the next, and that's it. You decide today, okay, this is, and have small goals. Today I'm going to do my rehearsal, I'm going to do this, that's it. Tomorrow we'll see. Could I request Aishwarya to show the other 2 films? Is that okay, Lata?
Yes, of course. We do have time, and absolutely, we'd like to see the others. And I do have a few questions after we see those films.
Sure. Yeah. So you see, the circle was a part of a chair that I had in my house. This was a cover of a bottle, and we used little things. Could we have the other film too? So Lata, here you see, yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Aditi. You know, the world knows you as a great choreographer, but this session with you, I think, has shed light on you as truly an artist that has a reach beyond your creativity. You're now a person who has a global reach, not just with your incredible creativity, your choreographic versatility, you know, both in the classical form and your contemporary extensions within Kathak. But your now forays into your dance films and the innovations that you have created during the pandemic to bring your artists together, to give them impetus for new work, to create the solidarity within your art, your group, is truly so inspiring. And you're a leader. You're a leader in the global dance community. The Imperfect Circles was a series that I also attended. And when I saw how many artists, younger artists, that you assembled for each of the sessions, gave them an opportunity to talk about their own journeys and their questions for each of the incredible leaders that you had assembled in dramaturgy, lighting design. Give them now the the spring into their own their own artistic journeys. I think your range of ideas, your range of caring for the next generation and giving them the springboard into their own journeys is way beyond just being the artistic director of a dance company. And truly, I mean, I think this session and this conversation with you has been very revealing and inspiring, truly. So
Thank you, Lata. It's you are too kind and very generous. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I meant all of it, and all the four artists that we have had a conversation with have given us such an opportunity to understand their journeys. So yes, Aditi, yeah, it's been a very, very engaging but an inspiring, and I hope many young artists who have watched today will have had many takeaways from this conversation today. I know that there will be questions, so I think they will start coming in, and I know they would love to hear from you. So they will appear in the below, in the band below.
Okay.
Yes. And please do also, if you have any other thoughts that we may not have discussed, please do go ahead and
Well,
part it.
just that the Drishtikon dancers right now are working on how they have felt the seasons within the confines, not only of their homes, but confines of their anxious heart, and their troubled minds. So they are working on this, and we hope to show it soon. We are also, my work, contemporary dance based on Kathak solo called Forbidden, which is about female sexuality, was to happen on the 20th of October in 2020. It's been postponed to 2021 October, and now we don't know what and where that will be. We are also on the, similar to Imperfect Circle, we are thinking of starting another series which is to do with the law, and the arts, and what is relevant in India and what certain rights that we as artists we have, but for young artists, this, the generation of artists who were in Imperfect Circle, who have work of their own, and are young and may want to know. So that's something we are thinking about. We're thinking about a workshop, all with a very heavy heart, Lata, because it has been quite for everyone. And as I said, I think what we need to do is, I'm not trying to think what is going to happen later. This is my reality currently. This is it. My reality is talking to you, getting onto the Zoom and chatting and working on with my dancers and my musicians and other collaborative processes. That's my reality that I will want to find my spark in and my creativity in. I don't want to think what is going to happen, what may happen. I don't know. And that is my only, that to the younger generation, that I know how difficult it is, but just set small goals and take one step at a time. You can't, it's impossible to recreate sunlight, but you can give a sense of the warmth that the sunlight gives when the sun is rising. So let's keep that warmth within us and share it.
Leaves us all with a very warm feeling for the future as we all navigate life through these difficult times. definitely. So, do we have questions? I think they will be coming up.
Yeah.
Can you read
Yes.
those?
So you speak about questioning everything while approaching work. Can you please elaborate? I think, uh, it's always for me, it's necessary. I feel doubt is a better place to be in rather than being sure of something. Because if you're sure of something, you shut all the windows. Everything is, you feel you know it all. And then, it's better to have doubts, because with doubts you question, you find out, you open a window that doesn't work, you don't see the path, you turn around and look behind you, and I've been lucky to have had the gurus that I've had, Pandit Birju Maharaj ji and Shrimati Kumudini Lakhya ji, and the family that I grew up in. My family encouraged me to question and not take everything for granted. And then have the courage to say, this is what I believe, and the conviction to put it forward. And maybe you fail, you know. Uh, that's okay. You can't always be successful. So uh, yeah, I think questioning helps you um, learn and find out about yourself. Like, when I teach, I have only 4 students, though during the pandemic I've done so many workshops from across the world. So it's something that I'm thinking about more and more. As But those 4 students have hundreds of students. But I have taught them, but I have learned much more from them. And I think this give and take is only possible with questioning. There was another question, but it's gone out. Uh, your art is timeless. Well, thank you. But through the medium of dance, what do you suggest the generation coming ahead? Dance has become global through the digital medium in one end, and as well as we are having memories of the stage behind. I think I already answered that question, but I'll elaborate. Look at Kathak, the history of Kathak. It traveled from the temples to the courts to the small principalities and kotas to the proscenium stage, and now to our living rooms or bedrooms. That is the reality. So for me, that's where I am right now. Now, having said that, humanity has faced, let's say, the Spanish flu or the Second World War. But the art somehow bounced back, right? In which form, no one can say. How they will be transformed, no one can say. But they have to be transformed. This intense experience has to affect us, has to have somehow transformed the movement of our mind and our hearts and our bodies as soloists and as choreographers of either solo or group works. This reality has to inform us. And I think right now the reality is the digital world. So that's where we are. We have to find our creativity within that. When the stage happens, well, it will be a different experience, and I'm sure that we will be back on the stage. Humanity will be back, but in a transformed way. Hi, Aditi Ben. I was wondering how you approach working with props on or stage pieces. Hi, Tanveer. Hello. Well, I have actually, I'm thinking back, not uh, used so many things. It's usually the backdrop in many of my works, like um, in Immersed, which is a classical solo. It's only the backdrop, which is a dynamic backdrop. In Uncharted Seas, we just use lamps and again a dynamic backdrop. When I say dynamic, I mean we use it in terms of widening circles is also this flickering flame. So, Tanvir, I have, in fact, this with the frames in between is probably one of the few times in the recent last 20 years that I've actually had props on stage. Um, and I was uh, I'm not so sure right now whether I'm completely comfortable with it. In the sense, I'm exploring it. When the space is not empty, because I dance with, I use space quite a bit. But in this work, Now Me Nadia, it's very slow. It's very contained. After this tumultuous entry, it becomes very very internalized. So the frames were used, but I'm exploring it, Tanvir. So I'm on a journey. I don't know really. I can't answer you because I don't have much experience with it actually. Hi Satwik. You touched on the differences between live performances and film. Do you find that you choreograph differently for film, or are the differences primarily in the shooting, editing of it? Again, I don't know. When I was filming it, I was very conscious of thinking how I would like the camera to be from my understanding of the camera. Satwik, I've shared this so often with you. I'm the world's worst photographer. But during the pandemic, I have sat down with the camera, sometimes my daughter in law, sometimes my cook, sometimes myself have helped film. And I do think of the angle, the shot, the light, and work in that very small sense, the choreographic part. So when I was doing Lost in the Forest, I was thinking about film. But when the brilliant Nirvair came in, he had multitudinal other angles, which I had never even thought of. But yes, I did think of it for film. If it ever goes on stage, and who knows, uh, I will have to revisit it and see what works, what doesn't work, or how we can bring this tumultuousness, or how we can bring this sense of this rolling of tumbling of moments on a live performance. Hey, Dhirendra. Hi. Emotions are very powerful tool for an artist to create something new, but keeping those emotions all the time can be painful too. I have seen most of your work is based on your personal experiences and seen you living those emotions throughout the journey. Didi, how do you deal with it while creating new work and in person? Yeah, Dhirendra. Dhirendra is a fabulous dancer and used to be a part of Drishtikon and is still a larger part of the Drishtikon family. And he's right. Most of my work starts on an autobiographical peg, a personal experience. But I hope, Dhirendra, that personal experience is something I live with, but that from the peg, the journey of the actual work goes in a takes on its own journey, if I may say so. So it becomes larger than my small life, and that it then only can it reach out to an audience that is all over the world, of all ages and all emotions. So I think at times it is difficult because you are living that personal experience, but then you let the work take over and find its own journey. It takes a while, as I mentioned to you, Lata, that I feel that the work, and I know that Bijoyni also shared that it takes multiple sharings of that work for the work to find its path and you to find your path in that work. I also feel it's very necessary when the work is such, I'm not saying mine is, not at all, that you forget what genre it is, what style it is, who is dancing it. It draws you into the emotion of that work, and that each one of us individually, with our own life experiences, find that journey from the work ahead. So the work should be half a sentence with a comma, and then the rest of the sentence should be written by the viewer. Considering how you are such a huge influence on dancers growing up, who has influenced you, Aditi ji? And who or what influences you now? I don't know about being a huge influence on dancers, but as I have said, life has been my greatest guru. I have found the courage to go ahead because I'm of my family and my dance family. And these two entities have influenced me. And when I say my dance family, of course, my two great gurus. But everything, falling leaf suddenly. The other day, there was a storm, and in the middle of the night, I said, "What's happening?" And raindrops. There's a different sound when it falls on a tin roof, or it falls on mud, or it falls on khaprel. So I think life is, I can say in short, is the biggest influence. Kumiben always said, don't wear blinkers. Be open to life and be open to life with passion and abandon, with humility and courage, and overall with love and compassion.
Well, what a session. What a session. Thank you for opening your heart with such generosity, such vulnerability.
Thank you.
And
thank you, Lata, and thank you again for this commission. It sparked something. It's very necessary for, these little sparks, and otherwise it wouldn't have happened, And through the challenges, Shubha and myself and Nirvayar and Govind and everybody who was associated with it found that energy to go ahead.
well, we had no idea at some
Even the dancers and musicians. Thank you.
honestly,
Thank you all. Stay
it was
well and safe. Must.
Yes. We urge everybody, and we pray for India to come out of this very, very difficult time, very challenging time. We too in Canada are in a lockdown, and it's not as severe as it is in India, and our prayers are with all of you. And thank you again, Aditi. All the very
Thank you so much, Lata. Thank you.
Our pleasure, our absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, today was the last of our conversations with the artists of Anvesana. And I think for us to understand what goes behind the mind of an artist and their process of creation of a work, these conversations that we've had, which are all available at Sampradaya's Facebook page, have been such valuable insights into an artist's personal relationship to dance, and in particular, what they have gone through in the pandemic, and yet found the fortitude and the inspiration to create these works. As you come closer to watching their performances starting May the 8th, 9th, 15th, and 16th, you might find it useful to go back to the Facebook conversations, starting with Bijoyini, as you watch her performance on May the 8th, and Metil Devika on May the 9th, Rama Vaidyanathan on May the 15th, and Aditi on May the 16th. Do go back to those conversations. They are going to be very informative as you watch their performances. Thank you to all our Facebook friends for supporting us through Anvesana. And please do get your tickets. They are on chalet.com, and looking forward to seeing each and every one of you. And do write to Sampradaya Dance Creations with your comments. This has been a very exciting journey for us, something that we ideated in September last year, and we had no idea, all of us at Sampradaya, how this would take off. And we're now going to look forward to May the 8th for the premiere of Anvesana. Thank you. And do go to Chalet, do spread the word to your friends everywhere, and tell them to watch these Facebook interviews. I think they will have a better understanding of how exciting these new creations are. Thank you. And support Sampradaya Dance Creations.